What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of MUT Tips. I'm your host, Sean Taylor from the Made Up Theater, and let's jump into today's topic, being wrong. When you're wrong in life, whether it's in school or at a job or in a conversation with somebody, it sucks. You feel defeated. And in improv, it can also suck, even though we treat mistakes as gifts. I recently received this question. How do you give clues or impersonations of a celebrity, movie, or pop culture you are unfamiliar with? Which led me to make this video because when it comes to referencing or impersonating pop culture, there's an expectation we feel like we have to get it right. We don't want to be wrong. And I share this sentiment because in short form shows, if there's a game where I'm given a suggestion of, something from pop culture or a movie or a historical event, I can feel kind of dumb and I'm overcome with anxiety over doing it right or being judged for being wrong. Like the last movie I saw in theaters was Dungeons and Dragons 2 years ago.
What madness is this?
But if you don't know, does that mean you can't play? No, because there's a lot of fun that can come from being wrong, and it's actually really funny. So let's take a game called Advice Panel. This is a game where 3 or 4 improvisers get on stage and are given a suggestion from the audience in the form of a character. And then the audience asks questions of them, and they have to answer as these characters. Let's imagine in this game, the host got you the suggestion of something you're unfamiliar with. Like, for example, maybe they got you like Han Solo, and maybe you don't know a lot about Han Solo, but you must ask yourself this. Do you know anything about Han Solo? Maybe you do know that they're from Star Wars. You maybe haven't seen Star Wars, but you know they're from Star Wars. Or maybe you know they're played by Harrison Ford, or that they're a smuggler. Even if there's just one little thing that you know, it might seem insignificant, but you can 100% base a character around that knowledge. I once saw somebody in a scene get endowed as Conan O'Brien. And it was very clear they didn't know a lot about Conan O'Brien, but the one thing they knew is that he has a big head. And thus, they played the scene as Conan O'Brien, but playing to that as the defining aspect of this character. So they did a voice of somebody who has a huge head. They did physicality of someone who has a huge head. And it was really funny because they committed to their choice without judging it and thinking, oh gosh, I'm doing it wrong. And here's the thing, I love Conan O'Brien. I've seen a lot of his stuff. I'm very familiar with him, and I thought it was hilarious. What also made it funny is it wasn't derivative. It was something new. Sometimes if we see like direct impersonations of characters, it's like we've seen it before. So the joy of seeing something new discovered, and it was through yes and. They accepted Conan O'Brien as that suggestion and added on details from their own point of view and created something really memorable. So let's go back to Han Solo. Let's imagine you got that suggestion, but you know nothing about Han Solo, Star Wars, or Harrison Ford. It now feels like a void you have to play in. So now what? Well, there are a few things you can do. So for example, this is a tried and true bit. You as a confident performer can ask the person who suggested Han Solo and say, I know who Han Solo is. Yeah, I do. But I know some people in this audience may not know who he is. Could you describe him in a few words? As long as you do it confidently, it can be funny because it's showing that you don't know who it is, but you're not losing your status as a performer. Another thing you can do is ask a cast member, maybe very quietly off to the side, don't steal focus, for a few words about who it is. Like I've heard an example of this before where someone didn't know who SpongeBob SquarePants was. This was a long time ago where SpongeBob was new, but a lot of people knew who he was. And he asked somebody on stage very quietly, who's SpongeBob? And he just said, he's a talking sponge. And he went out there and he just committed to a choice. He started smoking a cigarette, talking in a little gruff accent like this, I'm SpongeBob. And it was funny because it just kind of was him playing to the very little knowledge he knew. But let's imagine there's no space to do any of those. You might think, I have nothing, but you do have something. You have Han Solo. You have the identifier of this character, and that can inspire choices. Like maybe the word Han, maybe that inspires rapid hand gestures. That's a physicality choice that you can take from that word. Or Solo, that might make you think of someone who's lonely or a happy bachelor. These two words, either separate or together, can give you choices. You have permission to play a character wrong when it comes to impersonation. Because hey, guess what? There's probably people in the audience who also don't know who Han Solo is. So it's a journey for them as well to discover who this character is, and you have permission to do it wrong, as long as you commit to it as though you're right. So let's put this to practice. Now, you may not know this about me. I'm not super well versed in mainstream pop culture, but I do have an affinity towards like really niche performers or, characters that are not in the mainstream, whether they're musicians, actors, characters in types of fiction that I enjoy. And I'm going to give you some of those characters, and you're going to use that identifier, that name, as a way to flesh out who you think this character is. Again, you're not going to probably know who they are, so you get to make the choice by tapping into the voice, the physicality, the attitude of this character. I'll give you like about 10 seconds to do that, and then I'm going to ask you a question like you would get in the advice panel game, and then you're going to give a response that's no more than 20 seconds. Again, commit to your choice. You are right unless you say you're wrong. Let's begin. All right, your first character is Hank Jarvis. Take 10 seconds to tap into the voice, the physicality, and the attitude. Hank, I really want a promotion at my job. What is the best way to go about asking for one? Excellent. Your next character is Natalia Renner. Again, tap into the character first. Hey, Natalia, I'm going on a date, but it's like the 6th date, and I want to make it really special because I like this person. What's your recommendations for making a date special? Perfect. Your next character is Trent Albright. Tap into the character. Hey, Trent, what's one thing that you regret in your life? Awesome. Your next character is Daphne Cooler. Hey, Daphne, what do you think the meaning of life is? Excellent. Your next name is Niall Bowers. Niall, what's a secret that you have? Awesome. How was that? Remember, improv is all about kind of going with the flow, right? And this is where going with your first choice, your first thought, and committing to it will lead you in a positive path rather than a negative, judgmental path inside of your brain, which leads you to passive choices. And here's the thing, those characters I just gave you, I made them up. They don't exist. So you were wrong, but technically you were also right because you went in with your point of view, your choices, and committed to them, and that's what elevated those characters and made them feel alive. Enjoy playing characters that aren't you. I think something that's really special, it's something I really like about short form improv, is that there's an element of control that is kind of taken away from you. And I think that's a good thing. If we're overly controlling on stage, then improv can sometimes become more one note and predictable. But when you're given characters that you have no idea who they are, that's where the magic can come in, as long as you choose to love your choices. And that concludes this episode of MUT Tips, everybody. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. and I'll see you next time for a brand new episode of MUT Tips. Bye!